Hello friends, so now going to start my paper reading. Okay, reading of today is this very important paper exploring a software framework for posture tracking and haptic feedback and feedback control, a virtual reality based approach for upper limb rehabilitation on the Oculus Quest 2. So currently I am wearing Oculus Quest Meta Quest 3s, but it's for an older version and previous version of this Meta Quest, that is Meta Quest Oculus Quest 2. Oculus and Meta both are same. Oculus is the company now taken by Meta. So Meta Quest 2 you can also say it. So I'm going to start this paper. So first starting I will read this. This works proposes the development of a posture control system using the Oculus Quest 2. See, a VR device and evaluates the effectiveness of the solution by integrating it into specific uh, the- thera- therapeutic exercises. What the exercises are, let me see it. Okay, therapeutic exercises highlighting the feasibility of developing physiotherapeutically adapted solution utilizing VR technology. Okay, so I'm going to read this PDF, view PDF, or let me download it also. Okay, let me download it as well. I will save it in the same name as what the given here, exploring till here, tracking the haptic feedback control. Okay, save it in the name of here and save it. Okay, so what I can do, I will search it out here, the meaning of therapeutic. Let me send it. I can sit here. Okay, this is very well. Okay, you can see me. Hello. Okay, let me come close. Okay, you can see me here now. Okay, I'm reading now. So the study explores how virtual reality, specifically using the um, 1 minute. So the study explores how virtual reality, specifically using the Oculus Quest 2, can be applied to a upper limb rehabilitation. Traditional physiotherapy for shoulder pain or post-surgery recovery is often repetitive, tedious, and poorly monitored. This research proposes a software framework for posture tracking and haptic feedback, so to make rehabilitation more engaging, precise, and data driven. That's the important idea of this. Okay, so how it works. So this is okay, fine. Now hardware: Oculus Quest 2 headset, controllers, plus an external optical tracker, that is Polaris Vega for validation. Unity based VR application that tracks posture and integrates feedback. Feedback types: visual feedback, 3D target guiding, posture, haptic feedback, chest mounted controller vibrates when posture deviates. So Oculus test T1, exercise test T2 to T7. There I will read. So key findings are: Oculus Quest 2 maintain reasonable tracking accuracy even under occlusion through some blind spots like x-axis, z-axis. Reduce precision. Feedback tools provides posture alignment. Early test shows what's a high variability. Later tests are like with haptic and visual feedback shows progressive improvements and steadier posture. VR gamification kept patients more engaged compared to traditional physiotherapy. So data collected coordinates, Euclidean distance, and variability provided objective matrices for clinical to monitor progress. Okay, so the conclusion are VR-based rehabilitation using Oculus Quest 2 is feasible, engaging, and effective. It addresses a major limitation of traditional physiotherapy: lack of real-time feedback, poor adherence, and subjective monitoring. Future potential: integrating VR system into clinical practice for long-term soldier rehabilitation outcomes. So these are things. Would you? Okay, it's fine. Now I close it. Now what I will do? I will press F11. Okay, F11. Now the screen become large. Now what I will do? I will Control plus plus. Okay, now you can see Control plus plus. The screen is become large. Now I will read the screen. Okay, read this paper. Okay, here. So, exploring a software framework for posture tracking and haptic feedback control, a virtual reality based approach for upper limb rehabilitation on the Oculus Quest 2. Okay, so author are, let me first focus it, it's little bit blur. Okay, Jacqueline Dallin, Anatonia H, J Moredia, and Jao L Villaga. I'm sorry to pronounce the name, I'm not native, so it's very it's okay, but now starting the paper. Abstract. Virtual reality has gained significant attention in various fields, including healthcare and industrial application within healthcare. An interesting application of VR can be found in the field of physiotherapy. Okay, so the conventional method for rehabilitation. 1 minute. The conventional methodology for rehabilitating upper limb lesions is often perceived as tedious and uncomfortable. The manual nature of the process uh, performed by physicians leaves patients in an environmental lacking motivation and engagement. This presents an opportunity for implementing VR as a tool to enhance the rehabilitation process and improve the quality, efficiency, and evolution of recovery. However, physiotherapy often lacks relevant data to track the recovery process effectively. Further, compounding concern about its efficacy. To address this, we propose the development of posture control system using the Oculus Quest 2 or a VR device. Our primary objective was to validate the performance aspects of this device and assess its potential at a uh, as a rehabilitation. Okay, fine. So our primary objective was to validate the performance of aspects of this device and assess its potential as a rehabilitation tool, providing valuable support to healthcare professionals. Through a series of tests, we evaluated the effectiveness of our VR solution by integrating into specific therapeutic exercises. This approach enhances a patient's involvement by offering real-time feedback on exercise aggregation and providing clear instruction for posture correction. The results demonstrate a notable impact on exercise performance, highlighting the feasibility of developing physiotherapeutically adapted solutions utilizing VR technology by leveraging the 1 minute. Why is coming again and again? Okay, the I have to keep the hands away. Okay, because it collapse and it increases in it. By leveraging the Oculus Quest 2 system and proposed framework, our research contributes to the advancement of VR based rehabilitation process practices. Okay. The findings offer valuable insights into the potential benefits of integrating immersive technologies into the field of physiotherapy, empowering healthcare professionals in their treatment approaches. Okay, the next keywords are virtual reality, Oculus Quest 2, upper limb rehabilitation, and physiotherapy. Okay, so introduction. Now, the chronic pain (CP) is a major public health issue with important individual consequences and high socio-economic burden. Okay, chronic pain affects an estimated 100 million people across Europe and 50 million Americans live with chronic pain, showing that it has reached epidemic proportion worldwide, and its economic costs have been shown to be extremely high. The estimates suggest the chronic pain cost the US at least USD 560 to 635 billion a year in direct medical costs and lost productivity. Soldier pain plays a significant role in the prevalence of chronic pain conditions organizing from the musculoskeletal system. It is recognized as the third most prevalent pain condition encountered in primary healthcare settings. Additionally, it can be associated with various other impairments. It affects both genders and can be observed across various age groups, particularly in those of working age and increasingly in younger individual due to occupation involving computer use. The impact of soldier pain extends to work and domestic activities as well as sports and leisure pursuits. The recovery process of soldier pain can be time consuming, leading to high number of persistent and recurrent cases. Studies have noted the persistence of soldier pain even after 12 or 24 months from its onset, which may contribute to the overall prevalence. Okay, in fact, soldier complaints often result in unfavorable outcomes, with only approximately 50% of new episodes of soldier complaints showing complete recovery within 6 months of medical intervention. However, this proportion increased to 60% after 1 year. Exercise based physiotherapy is widely recognized as the primary treatment for soldier pain. Okay, shoulder pain. It also plays a crucial role in the rehabilitation process following shoulder surgery. Adhering to the prescribed physiotherapy regimen is essential for successful recovery in both conservative and surgical cases. This includes attending clinical appointments, actively participating in supervised rehabilitation activities guided by a physiotherapist, performing prescribed exercises and activities at home, and avoiding potentially harmful actions, and utilizing protective or therapeutic devices. However, adherence to physiotherapy can often be poor, particularly in home setting and among work population. Furthermore, implementing exercise-based therapy at home poses challenges due to difficulties in supervision. These challenges are particularly relevant in shoulder pain conditions as they are associated with changes in scapular kinematics and impaired muscular activity. One crucial aspect of physiotherapist's role in shoulder pain rehabilitation is to oversee the process of kinematic retraining. This involves ensuring the appropriate recruitment of muscles and development and maintenance of correct motion pattern during exercise. Achieving this level of supervision and guidance can be particularly challenging in a home-based exercise program. These limitations contribute to limited evidence or controversial findings regarding the efficacy of exercise-based physiotherapy for shoulder pain. These findings put the exercise base in need of an additional data-driven approach, which becomes more important as we need to constantly measure the improvement of patients along the rehabilitation process. To enhance the methodology in which rehabilitation is approached nowadays, new systems should be developed to provide solid matrices about the performance, executions, and characterization of rehabilitation practices in the intention to capture information to present meaningful insights in the form of report. Detailed data needs to be extracted from the realization of the exercises. Okay, and some studies point towards the possibility of extracting more detailed information that is given in 26 to 27 through a 3D reconstructed model of the subject, which is already a goal of virtual reality and could possibly be implemented for the medical purposes described in this paper. Research shows that it is possible to approach an evolution of the spinal curvature in non-invasive and radiation-free way. Merging this information allows one to create more personalized programs and study the evolution by implementing real life scenario within virtual reality that require appropriate posture to help patients develop good posture habits and prevent further spinal curvature issues. For more critical medical cases, the described tools could be combined with peripheral hardware to extract redundant and robust information. This approach has led to several studies with the implementation of IMU sensors, and the accuracy and robustness of the system will provide a higher range of feedback for the patient in addition to the proposed solution presented within this article. So now going the next, the present work focus on implementing virtual reality technology by developing a tool to enhance physiotherapy practices, providing more effective exercise routines while addressing issues of monitorization and execution vigilance through compromising the safety of patients and physicians. The aim of this project was to identify the tracking capability of Oculus Quest system, particularly its potential for tracking patients, just to develop objective data-driven monitoring for shoulder rehabilitation. Uh, this was achieved through the development of a virtual reality system designed to monitor exercise and provide real-time feedback on posture, one of the most critical factor for rehabilitation success. Okay, now going for materials and methods. Hardware that used for the material used for the test were an Oculus Quest 2 meta platforms incorporation, Manolo Park CA USA head mounted display, that is HMD, two Oculus touch controllers, that I know that controllers are necessary, whose characteristics are described in table 1. So, and a tool developed to place one Oculus Quest controller in a way that allowed us to obtain the posture described for the exercise. So, Oculus Quest 2 device characteristics, you can see the specification. Memory that you use was 6 GB, storage was 256 GB. Okay, and same specification, but this is more advanced. This is not just 6 GB. This is, I think, the RAM is almost 8 GB, and storage is same 256 GB. Okay, display is LCD 1832 1920 per eye, the same, either it's 72 to 120 hertz, and graphics is Arduino. One second. Arduino 650. Okay, Arduino 650 1.2 LTL flops. Okay. Hmm. 1 minute. What I can do? Move it some forward. Okay. Hmm. And I can do reading. Okay. Fine. This is okay. So, to, and they allow us to obtain posture described for exercise. Oculus Quest 2, you can see. Sound, the two built-in speaker, 3.5 mm headphone jack. You can see headphone jack here also. Okay, and the inputs, 6 degree of freedom inside out tracking through four built-in cameras. You can see the four cameras. This is sensor and this is four built-in cameras. You can see on this. Okay, and two controller with accelerometer and gyroscopes, and controller input Oculus Touch, and camera, four infrared cameras, okay, through which you are seeing me, and mass and 503 gram. Okay, a second system was used to track the position of the controller and headset, consisting of the Polaris Vega TX. Northern Digital Incorporation, Waterloo, ON, Canada, which is an optical tracker. It has volumetric accuracy of up to 0.12 RMS, latency of less than 3 millisecond, and frame rate as high as 400 Hz. So the software used for this research was Unity for development of the test and the creation of the system for posture analysis within Oculus Quest 2, as well as API for the collection of data from the Polaris Vega. The application developed for Oculus Quest 2 was built within the VR game default setup, taking advantage of Oculus integration with the Unity Asset Store. In terms of resources, the software developed was simple application in which the first scene consisted of canvas menu and options to access the two tests developed. Once the test is complete, a check mark indicates the particular test that has been completed. Both tests were located in different scenes. Okay, but we use the same structure of data collection with scripts for every Oculus Quest education cycle. Okay, we collected the data from the headset and the controllers for coordinates x, y, z, and the quaternions. Okay, in the case of the second test, additional data was collected relative to the interaction within the posture tracking. This data was then saved within the memory of the headset for later processing. This is very important. Now moving forward. Okay, now the software developed for the Polaris Vega collects the data from the Polaris system in the terms of in the same terms and characteristic as the Oculus Quest. Okay, and afterwards a time step is added for both better synchronization of data from both systems. Now the test methodology that we use, occlusion test. The occlusion test was designed to evaluate. Okay, the time is going on. The occlusion test was designed to evaluate how accurate the Oculus Quest 2 was on tracking the controller placed on the chest for positioning, tracking, and posture. Now, characterization of the test. For the occlusion test T1, a game was developed as a Unity application in which the participant introduced in the virtual reality environment should see group of spherical shapes placed in the surrounding 3D space. Okay, these spheres were placed in a way that to test the various headset position according to the head movement of the patient relative to the controller placed on their chest. The participant uses their neck movement to like this. Okay, neck movements to reach each of the spheres with a headset pointer. The goal was to evaluate the accuracy of Oculus Quest 2 to keep track of the controller placed on the chest. The cloud of spheres in the 3D environment was placed at a position that made the patient apply a neck rotational movement of around 65 degree upward or downward to reach the different points, placing the headset in a certain position relative to the controller. Each position was performed for an interval of 5 seconds. Figure 1 illustrates the experience merging the virtual reality spheres with the real environment. We collected the coordinates of the controller in relation to the headset from two main sources, the Oculus Quest 2 and Polaris Vega. Okay, you can see here. This is how the things are done. Experience representation, a visual depiction of the occlusion test. The 10 blue sphere were evenly spaced along a circular arc around the headset in the virtual environment within the headset with a distance to the headset approximately 2 meters, inclined at 65 degree both upward and downward from the front relative to the headset horizontal line. The Polaris Vegas was positioned directly in front of the headset at a distance of 2.5 meter and a height of 2 meter. Okay, figure 1 shows the environment in which the test was conducted as well as different points that were placed in the 3D virtual environment within the Oculus Quest application. Figure 2 shows the next figure. Okay, the figure 2 shows the sequence of virtual space is fixed and the participant will pass through each point at a time in a specific order, one specific order alongside the experiment. The Polaris Vega will record the information of the coordinates for both the controller and headset. Okay, to collect this data, the two passive tools were used. One was attached to the headset as shown in figure 2. This was attached. Okay, two passive tools were used. One was attached to the headset as shown in figure 2. Another was passive marker placed on the controller position near the chest. Okay, so this is figure 2, visual representation of points sequence, illustration of test education process where the headset was sequentially aimed at each spare from P1 to P10. The sequence followed the predefined arrangement of points with the Polaris Vegas origin reference track position on the headset. Now exercise test. To realize the exercise test, a previously validated physiotherapeutical exercise for upper limb rehabilitation was identified and selected. The goal was to execute an analysis of the performance of the position tracker solution, for which a series of sub proceeding was introduced to characterize the impact of the solution. So this is the passive external rotation exercise illustration adapted by American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeon rotator cuff and soldier conditioning program. The step-by-step direction of the exercise was established according to 30 as follows. Step-by-step direction that was given was this: grab the stick with one hand and cup the other hand to order the stick with other hand. Okay, grab the stick with one hand and cup the other hand of the stick with the, okay, and keep the elbow, 1 minute, 1 minute. Keep the elbow of the soldier you are stretching against the side of your body. Push the stick horizontally as shown to the point of 1 mirror. I am pushing this one. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. What is happening? What is happening? I think so. Okay, I think so. I have to like this. Okay. What I can do, I can change the environment to see this screen. Okay, I will just go main menu and change it to this. This is better. Okay, now you can see. You can listen music as well. Nice, nice. Okay, and what I can do, is totally that time. Our the class will be better. 1 minute, what I can do. Nice. You can keep it here, and then you can touch it and make it like this. Okay. Now it's better. Now you can close it. Okay. Now you can read it. Okay. So fine. Now to grab the stick with one hand and cup the other end of the stick with the other hand. Okay. Keep the elbow of the soldier. But I think it will be better to have a view that go to public room. Go to Sam public. Okay. Okay. Now it's nice. Now it's perfectly nice. Perfectly nice. You can see niche. You can see water all around me. Water everywhere. Okay. And now I can read this paper. This is very good environment. Okay, now you can see the paper well. So the step direction of exercise were established according to as follows: step by step direction: grasp the stick with one hand and cup the other hand of the stick with the other hand, and keep the elbow of shoulder you are stretching against the side of your body, and push the stick horizontally as shown as the point of feeling a pull without pain, and hold for 30 seconds and then relax for 30 seconds and repeat on the other side. The direction provided are clear. Nevertheless, the execution of these exercises with a perfect technique needs practice, since they are conjunction of instruction to perform. Okay, so simultaneously and require attention, which is not constant over a long period of time. With the uses of technology, we can translate this set of instructions into an interactive game to constantly reinforce the technique needs in a subtle way and make the patient perform accordingly. For this study, a tool was developed incorporate the Oculus Quest controllers into the exercise to monitor its execution like this. You can see this is good tool. Exercise to representation adaptation of passive external rotation exercise using the Oculus Quest controller. The tool consisted of 60 centimeter long wood cylinder with a diameter 2.2 centimeter. Two custom base adapters were attached to at either end of the control cylinder to securely host the Quest controller and enabling the integration into the exercise setup. The solution developed has several possibilities in terms of intervention to help the patient correct their posture or simply acknowledge their performance of the exercise. For this, the intervention where visual feedback. The visual feedback consists of 3D target that indicates where the body, or more specifically the controller, located on the chest and should be pointing towards. So haptic feedback: the controller on the chest has a vibration facility capabilities. This actuator will react according to the precision of the posture system relative to the target, allowing it to detect when a person is drifting from the ideal posture through the vibration on the chest. Using the two solutions described, we introduce the following series of tests: T2 without haptic feedback, and T3 haptic feedback without visual reinforcement, and T4 haptic feedback full visual. Okay, and T5 fast test without haptic feedback, and T6 fast test with haptic feedback no visuals, and T7 fast test visuals and haptic feedback both. So these are the without haptic feedback is T2 only, and T3 haptic feedback without visual reinforcement, and T4 haptic feedback. I think battery is running. T4 haptic feedback full visuals, and T5 fast test without haptic feedback, and T6 fast test with haptic feedback no visuals, and T7 fast test visuals and haptic feedback. The first three tests include a timer in each position of the exercise. Also, the participant needs to keep the controller in a still position for an interval of time before moving it to the next position. The reason why the last three tests are described as fast tests is because the fast test without haptic feedback, fast test, why they are fast test, because that these three consist of more fluid exercise execution without timers, and the upper one is not fast without haptic feedback without visual reinforcement, and haptic feedback full visual. So these are three kinds of more fluid without timers. Figure 5 illustrate the process used to analyze the performance during the execution of the exercise in the previously presented scenarios. This process utilizes the tool shown in figure 4 and controller position on the chest. Okay, the right part of the figure 5 highlights the placement of Polaris passive markers. When performing the exercise, we define whether the controller in the tool needed to be ensure a specific position, and we ensure that patient keep the position for a certain interval of time. The addition of these tools allowed us to define the precision with which patient needed to keep the controller in the same position, providing extremely detailed feedback on the execution of the exercise. Okay, now see, you can see this is figure 5 experience representation on the left, and blue target represents the virtual target used by the posture tracking system. So on the right, the red circle indicate the placement of Polaris passive for marker rigid body utilized for tracking within the Polaris Vega, where the one place on the headset works as the origin reference for the one place on the chest controller. So data analysis is that the data acquisition pipeline involve collecting data from two primary sources, the Oculus Quest 2 and Polaris Vega. Data from the Polaris Vegas were obtained in the form of a CSV file containing the coordinates of two passive control trackers. For the Oculus Quest 2, the data was stored directly on the headset's memory in a .txt file. The Oculus Quest software integrated both the tracking framework and the user interface to facilitate the execution of the test, including the occultation and exercise execution test. Regarding coordinate system, both the systems were configured to record coordinates in a similar manner, with the headset acting as the origin, using the passive marker on the headset and controllers to track their respective position. All data was analyzed using Python, specifically within Jupyter Notebook, utilizing libraries such as Matplotlib and NumPy for dataset management. Pandas was employed to ensure that sampling rates of two systems were aligned, as the Oculus Quest 2 has a higher sampling rate compared to Polaris Vega. Both systems use timestamps that were previously synchronized to ensure proper data correlation. Okay, the approach of this study involved calculating the standard deviation as a method of comparison between the two systems, aiming to analyze their repeatability and consistency. This analysis provided valuable and meaningful insight into the performance of each system. The standard deviation for both systems was calculated using Python script designed for the data analysis. Okay, the calculation was performed using this following equation. The following equation is given that sigma is equal to whole root of 1 by n, capital N, sigma from I equal to 1 to n, and that is xi minus mu the whole square. Okay, the formula for standard deviation as shown in equation 1 involves determining the square root of the variation. The variation is calculated as the average of the square difference between each data point. Xi and mean, this mu is mean, divided by the total number of data points, the simple equation, statistical equation. This method is crucial for quantifying the variability within each data set and enabling a comprehensive comparison between the systems. Okay, for the exercise posture tracking system, the interaction between the controller position on the chest and target was recorded in 2 dimensions, is similar to the movement of a pointer. Additionally, the Euclidean distance between the controller and target was calculated, providing valuable and robust information about the execution of the exercise. Now, going for results. The goal was to evaluate whether the solution developed can provide a useful information regarding the position of patients, okay, throughout a series of experiments, as well as to define the impact that different components, both visual and haptic, have on the patient during the execution of the rehabilitation exercise. For the tracking data collection, aside from Oculus Quest 2, the second system to track was NDI Polaris Vega. This is another system, very important tracking system. Okay, and a device able to perform optimal tracking. In simple terms, this technology consists of a 3D visual tracking system that will allow us to have a reference for comparison with the Oculus Quest 2 tracking readings. So, Oculus test analysis, as previously tested, as stated, was previously stated in the last section. The Oculation test, Oculation. Okay, Oculation test has the objective of detecting tracking issues within the Oculus Quest 2 controller placed on the chest of the patient. This is figure 1. Okay, figure 6 shows that the standard deviation of both tracking system for each point, where the blue bars are relative to Oculus Quest 2 tracking system and the red bars are from the Polaris Vega tracking system. For the scale comparison in both solutions, there was a big difference between these technologies, as there was a high variation in the Polaris data in comparison to Oculus tracking coordinates. The standard deviation comparison of standard deviation for each point and coordinates across both systems during the Oculation test. The data is presented separated by axis, and with red representing the Polaris Vega system and blue representing the Oculus Quest system. The data was collected from a total of 10 people with the goal of obtaining more data and performing a more robust analysis. The participants included in the study were selected by different body morphologies to indicate a to validate a broader performance of the system. Figure 7 shows the differential of standard deviation difference between the maximum and minimum standard deviation values for each point. Considering the values of all 10 subjects, the scale of both systems maintained a variation in the resemblance to that in figure 6. However, the behavior of the Oculus Quest 2 in the terms of tracking system tracking precision showed an increase in standard deviation at some point, as can be seen at P4 and P7 and P9 as well. That this lack of precision was visible in the x and z axis more frequently in x axis. Okay, now you can see this one, the figure number 7. The standard deviation differential, a comparison of the standard deviation differential derived from the data collected from the 10 participants during the occlusion test. The results are color coded, with blue representing the Oculus Quest system and red representing the Polaris Vega system. Now the exercise test analysis, you can see for the exercise test analysis we collected data pertaining to the controller's position, okay, coordinates. Additionally, we gathered the bidimensional coordinates of the interaction between the chest placed controller and the posture target to analyze the steadiness of the patient throughout the entire execution of the exercise. Figure 8 shows the behavior in terms of the movement of the trunk of the patient, where the different colors represent different subjects. The difference in behavior could be exercise was controlled by the application in terms of position control and timing, following the instructions previously quoted and not allowing the patient to advance freely until they completed the specified time interval in each position. The other three fast tests, T5 and T6 and T7, were performed without the timer, allowing the subject to perform the exercise without the need to maintain the position for a certain amount of time. So you can see the posture analysis data from various tests conducted using the tracking framework. You can see here the T2 test without haptic feedback, and each color can correspond to a specific, suppose this test we are seeing a specific test subject is, okay, and illustrating variation in posture across exercises and individuals. So T3 test haptic feedback without visual reinforcement, okay, and haptic feedback full visual, and fast test without haptic feedback, fast test with haptic feedback and no visuals, and fast test visuals and haptic feedback. The figure 9 illustrates the bidimensional distance between the pointer created by the chest controller and center of the target across 6 test conditions T2 to T7. The box and whisker plot displays the median central black bar, interquarter range IQR, the box, and the data range excluding outliers, that is viscous. Okay, you can see here. The figure 9 is a bidimensional distance between the chest controller pointer and the target center across test T2 and T7, showing the medians, interquartile ranges, and variability. Okay, the results showed a progressive reduction in the median distance from T2 to T7, indicating improved posture alignment within the aid of the feedback tools, while T4 showed lower median distance compared to T5, T6, and T7. Its variability, IQR, and viscous are notably larger, suggesting less consistency in the posture during the test. These findings support the conclusion that feedback tools contribute to improved and more consistent. 1 second, you can you can close it. Okay, so was notably larger, suggesting less consistency in the posture during the test. These findings support the conclusion that the feedback tools contribute to improved and more consistent posture performance in later test. So discussion is that the results of this study demonstrates the potential of virtual reality VR system like the Oculus Quest 2 as effective tool for enhancing shoulder rehabilitation exercise by providing precise tracking of the controller and headset movements. The VR system successfully addresses challenges in posture monitoring and feedback delivery even under occlusion or blind spot conditions. This suggests the VR-based solution could overcome some of the key limitations of traditional physical therapy, such as lack of real-time feedback, limited precision in monitoring movement, and inconsistent adherence to proper technique. The analysis of figure 6 and 7 highlighting discrepancies in the tracking accuracy between the Oculus Quest 2 and Polaris Vega system. While the Polaris system demonstrate some limitation in maintaining consistent tracking of passive markers. The Oculus Quest 2 sustain reasonable precision under various conditions. This ability to track movements even during occlusion or blind spots scenarios is crucial for physical therapy, where precise posture monitoring is essential for effective rehabilitation compared to traditional PT approaches that rely heavily on subjective observation or less interactive methods. The VR-based approach provides an objective data-driven framework for assessing and correcting postures. Figure 7 shows that there was constant variation in the tracking, which was significantly superior when the headset was facing down on both sides, left and right. This means that there might be some sports that have to be within the proximity of controller to the headset, considered as blind spots, where the precision of the controller position might oscillate. This mostly occurred in the x-axis and could also occur in the z-axis as data sort. The exercise study T2 to T7 demonstrated that participants progressively improve their performance with the help of VR feedback tools. Early tests such as T2 and T3 showed significant variation in posture due to the lack of familiarity and technique. However, the introduction of real-time haptic visual feedback helped the participant make steady correction towards the ideal posture in subsequent tests T4 to T7. This highlighting the unique advantage of VR system in providing immediate and actionable feedback, a feature that is often missing in traditional PT. By enabling participants to self-correct in real time, the VR system fosters greater autonomy and accelerates the learning curve for proper technique. In Figure 8 shows the result for different persons performing the exact same exercise under the same condition. With the obtained data, we could draw a first layer of conclusion on the comparison between tests. Okay, where that first test showed the highest level of variation, representing a lack of practice and technique that was then developed by performing the exercise repeatedly. The instruction of the exercise were clear at the beginning of the experience, and as the person processed throughout the series of tests, there was an improvement of the movement. T3 showed some more steady movements as the haptic feedback provided indication to the participant, but haptic feedback on its own did not directly contribute to enhance or correct the posture, although it proved useful when identifying variation. In T4, we could see that while there was an attempt and visible correction toward the ideal posture, nevertheless there was an added movement. Test T5 to T7 showed improvement toward maintaining posture. It is important to remember that these tests were conducted in a sequence without any pause. So after applying visual feedback to the subject, they were able to sustain a more fixed posture without any feedback. The study also explored the effect of time control on exercise execution in tests without enforced timing. The participants tended to move more quickly with less precision, mimicking the unsupervised exercise condition we often see in traditional PT settings. The VR system, however, proved effective in mitigating this issue by providing structural, visual, and haptic feedback to guide movement, as seen in the improved performance during the T5 and T7. This underscores the potential of VR system to provide consistent supervision and ensure adherence to proper techniques even when the participants perform the exercise independently. Now, figure 9 shows how the best performance in terms of mean distance to the target was achieved by applying control not only in terms of virtuality scenario but also by providing the full capacity of this posture tool. You can see the figure 9. Where is the figure 9? I think so, downward. Okay, fine. So you can see there. The figure 9 shows that how the best performance in terms of, but also by providing the full capacity of this posture tool. The number of data points collected across the test correlated with the duration of data collection. Faster tests such as T4 and T6 resulted in fewer data points, which may have led to mistaken interpretation of better performance as shown in figure 8. This highlights the performance of defining the best practices for exercise design within the virtuality framework to ensure accurate performance evaluation. Overall, the result of this study study support the viability of VR system as effective tools for enhancing physical therapy outcomes by combining precise posture tracking, real-time feedback, and structure process exercise protocols. The VR system addresses key limitation of traditional PT approaches, including inconsistent feedback, that lack of objective tracking, and challenges with unsupervised adherence. Moreover, the ability of the VR system to adapt to different conditions such as timed or untimed exercises makes it a versatile solution for rehabilitation settings. Future research could further explore how integrating these systems into clinical practice might improve the long-term outcomes for shoulder rehabilitation patients. Okay, patients, patients. Okay, conclusions. The discussion presented in this article points towards the positive capacity of the users of the Oculus Quest 2. No? This is Oculus Quest 3. Okay, as a tool for upper limb rehabilitation. Throughout a series of tests, we validated the capacity and precision of the system for extraction of relevant information and to induce a series of instruction as the person's behavior to make them capable of following the instructions in a less tedious way. This was achieved by implementing dynamic solutions that could be transformed into gamifying tool capable of maintaining the engagement of patient in the realization of the exercises without directly referring to the real goal of the task they are performing. This enables them to abstract from the tedious and repetitive aspects of physiotherapy exercises. This research analyzed the impact of a tool designed to correct and monitor the patient's posture during exercises, demonstrating that the solution effectively enhances the exercise performance and provides valuable insights. The tool offers a dynamic approach to patient's engagement, ensuring the accurate execution of movements while also collecting meaningful data for physicians. This data can be analyzed to assess the patient progress and ensure future therapeutic decisions. Therapeutic. So author contributions you can see here. These are the author contributions. Conceptualization you can see. Fundings given by you can see here. Institutional review board statement. Okay, you can see the references you can see. Now it's time to summarize this paper. You can see the references, 30 references, a disclaimer. Okay. Okay, fine. Now it's time to wrap up this paper. Okay, I'm going to wrap it. I will go here and go notebook. Okay. Now try notebook LM. Okay. And I will drink water first. This is necessary. Time is already okay. It's already discharged. So what I will do, I will just charge it. Take a cable from here and plug this here. Okay. My headset. Okay. You can see how peaceful it is. Totally a good environment to study the any type of study. You can see lot of water here, lot of mountains and clouds. Okay, such a peaceful vibes. Okay, now I'm going to summarize the paper and then I will continue my study. I will do some work today. Okay, so wrapping this paper. So create new notebook. Notebook is creating. Upload files. I will upload my file. Okay, this is my paper. I will upload it. Okay, and write it to summarize this paper and relevant questions and answers. Okay, you can see it's summarizing. So what I will do, this is paper explores the use of virtual reality as a tool for upper limb rehabilitation, specifically targeting the limitation of traditional physiotherapy for shoulder pain. Okay, Researchers develop a posture tracking framework using the Oculus Quest 2, placing a controller on the patient's chest to monitor trunk alignment in real time. So the study validated the system accuracy by comparing its data against an optical tracker while testing the effects of visual and haptic feedback on exercise performance. Results, one second, cancel it. Okay, and against an optical tracker while testing the effects of visual and haptic feedback on exercise performance. Results indicated that immersive technology significantly improves technique and engagement, helping patient maintain correct posture through interactive data-driven supervision. By integrating gamification, the system aims to transfer repetitive recovery routine into motivating experiences that offer objective matrices for healthcare professionals. This approach suggests that VR-based solution can effectively bridge the gap between clinical appointments and unsupervised home-based therapy. So, summarizing the paper, this paper explores the development and validation of a virtual reality-based uh, framework for upper limb rehabilitation, and specifically focusing on shoulder pain. Okay, and posture correction using the Oculus Quest 2. Questions that can be asked: what primary challenge in physiotherapy does this research address? The paper identifies the traditional physiotherapy for upper limb license is often perceived as tedious and unmotivating, leading to poor patient adherence, specifically in home settings. Additionally, conventional methods often lack the objective and data-driven matrices needed to accurately track a patient's recovery progress. How does the proposed system work to improve rehabilitation? The researchers developed a software framework that uses the Oculus Quest 2 to monitor exercises and provide real-time feedback. The system tracks the patient's posture by placing one VR controller on their chest and utilizes two types of feedback: visual feedback, a 3D target. The 3D target in the VR environment indicates where the patient's body chest should be pointing. Haptic feedback: the chest mounted controller vibrates if the patient drifts from the ideal posture, providing a physical cue to self-correct. Okay, what specific hardware and tools were used in the study? The study utilized the Oculus Quest 2 headset and Oculus Touch controllers. Okay, for the exercises, the researchers developed a custom tool consisting of 60 centimeter wooden cylinder with 3D printed adapters to hold the controllers at each end, allowing for the execution of the validated external rotation exercises. To validate the system's accuracy, they compared this data against a Polaris Vega optical tracker. How was the tracking accuracy of the Oculus Quest 2 validated? The researchers conducted an occultation test to see if the headset could maintain tracking of the chest controller even when the patient moved their head in the blind spots. Example, looking 65-degree up or down. The results showed that while both systems had variation, the Oculus Quest 2 sustained reasonable precision under these conditions, often outperforming the Polaris system consistency in maintaining a lock on passive markers. What were the key results regarding patient's performance? The study found that participants showed progressive improvement in posture alignment and consistency across various series of 7 tests, that T1 to T7. Initial tests without feedback showed higher variability, but the introduction of real-time visual and haptic cues allowed participants to develop more technique and sustain a more fixed posture. What is the significance of gamifying the rehabilitation process? The significance was the authors concluded that transforming repetitive exercises into dynamic gamified solution can maintain patient engagement by abstracting them from the tedious nature of the task. This framework provides clinicals with meaningful data to assess their progress while empowering patients to perform exercises correctly and independently. Okay, that's the way. So that's the end of the paper, and you can search more in the notebook. Whatever question you want to ask, you can ask, and I will take from the research and paper and provide the answer. Suppose I want to ask how did haptic feedback specifically help with the posture correction. Suppose I are asking these questions, so it's analyzing these questions. Answer is provided in the VR West rehabilitation framework. Haptic feedback specially assisted with posture correction by serving as a real-time physical alert system to notify patient of their ability body alignment. Okay, so you can see here vibration alerts for posture drift, these were given. Identification and variations were given. Steady real-time corrections were given. Okay, limitation on so on. Haptic feedback on so on. Improve consistency in fast exercise like T6 and T7 was given. They just including involving more fluid. Fast exercise education T2 to T7. So through more questions and answer, you can understand the paper more finally. Okay, more accurately. Okay, now it's time to have a goodbye. Okay, you can read this paper. I will provide the link in the description of the video, so go through it. And very interesting paper, I read out full. You can also read it. Okay, thank you so much watching it. Now I'm going to end the video now. Going to menu, you can see the environment now. Okay, and stopping.